Welcome everyone. Today we have a new updated guide for the latest Ballista Explosion build. Now looking behind me, I'm doing some testings with the test dummies. Now of course, this build and also this video will be updating some crucial aspects of the Falconer build, including a lot of frequently asked questions. How are we dying a lot, and also the mana issues. So I want to go into this video in more details into the end game of this build and how you want to go from there. So quite excited to share this build with you guys, and also let me show you guys something like this. So I was farming my favors in arenas, and oh boy, it was quite easy. So because the build is wonderfully great with AoE spam, I can be running around or I can just AFK. And for most of the time, I was not having a big deal or big problems with most of the monsters. If you just AFK and just spam a few of the torrents, everything dies. Well, you do have to be careful with the bosses. So we'll talk about the AFK farming and how you can still die in one shot in those arenas. But it is quite fun, and I was getting quite a bit of favors, trying different mode of the game, and having a blast, literally a white blast. Now we'll also be looking into how to set up the build for bosses and also for single target damage. So notice from one of our previous videos, you can be setting up your decoys and also your ballistas in such a way to allow for a massive amount of burst damage. So a part of the guide will teach you guys how to do the rotations and also how to do the setup for this build to deal even more damage. So yes, today's build will be broken down into 3 parts. Firstly, let's have a look at the build itself and what are the recommendations, and then we'll go through the Falconer build frequently asked questions from our last video, and I have had some answers over here and also some advices for you guys. Finally, we're looking into how to do arena farming using this build and how you can potentially be one of the highest, arena clear leaderboard, and how you can potentially get onto the leaderboard as the top 3, top 4 players in the world using this particular set. Now, before I dive into the guide, I do want to give a big shout out and also thank you for BinaQc over here for sharing his particular build with the Ballista Falconer Explosion. And I do believe my friend CB also said, hey, follow the build from Max Row with the offensive variant. So I could not pronounce his name. It's a BinaQc. So our friend BinaQc over here also streams on Twitch, and also he has his YouTube channel, and he has made an explanation of the build if you guys want to have a look. So I have the links available for you guys. Again, a big thank you for him for sharing this build, and I do apologize on our last video. I was way too excited to share the build. I forgot to mention this. And I'll be adding those links to our previous video as well if you guys do want to follow him and also check out his builds. Really lovely to have so many creative builds in the community, and I really do want to give credits to all original creators for those lovely builds. Now coming over to our first part of the video. This is a follow-up video on the previous video guide on the Ballista Falconer, which allows us to pretty much scream wipe over corruption 500 up to 900, even over 1000 now. Players are pretty much wiping everything on the board. And if you haven't seen the previous video, definitely check it out. We covered this particular build in a variety of details. So now let's come over to the builder's guide over here. And I do want to mention, guys, some of those stats is preferable. You want to aim for the tier 7 ones if you can, and then the tier 5 ones are great. So notice that there will be at least 3 stats over here to offer for you guys. Technically, you're not expected to get 3 LPs on all of those unique items. Having 1 LP or 2 LP is good enough. And if you guys are following the current build, I have updated the stats for you guys, so it's more realistic. Previously, someone was mentioning this one's 4 LP. And they're like, how do you get 4 LP? So notice that the current build is going to use the Death Rattle, but it can be a little harder to get this particular amulet and with higher LP. So BinaQc over here also have a variant which he used for the arena. And I do believe he is currently world rank number 4 with the Ballista Falconer for the arena with over 1000 clears. So now coming over to our build frequently asked questions. One of the first and also biggest warning I want to give to you guys is if you guys are experiencing dizziness or discomfort while playing this build, I strongly recommend stop playing this build for a while until they fix the white flashes, which allows us to remove the player skill effects. Because this particular white flashes, it might not seem to be a lot, but trust me, if you play a lot and things get crazy, you're gonna get too much flashes, and it's not good for your eyes. And some of my friends have gotten used to it. Some other players like myself are still getting used to it. Oh boy, it is a little difficult. So this is the, I guess, the punishment for playing this wonderfully AoE spamming build. Now do be aware guys, this can be seen as a joke, but this could have serious medical conditions if you're not careful with this one. Now the second question I often get for this build is that I'm dying a lot. How come this is the case? Well, the build is Ultra Glass Cannon because of having our boots, which minuses our physical and also cold resistance with high dexterity. I'm currently only sitting on 94 dexterity and I'm already minus 39 and also 56%. And if we come over here to a screenshot of BinaQc's particular account over here, you can see it's minus 74, minus 3, 138%. Means you are getting amplified damage when you take those damages, and yes, you will die. But how would you adjust for this one? Well, the first thing is you should understand the concept of the silver shot that is coming from a passive. So BinaQ was mentioning he was using the silver shot with 2 passives, and this was the recommended skill tree I provided to you guys. So here having 2 points means that you can be spamming your Q and also your W spells. And this allows you to cast the silver shot every 10 seconds, which guarantees 1 dodge. And it's quite important to press Alt to see the details. You'll be guaranteed 1 dodge every 10 seconds, and for me currently I'm only having 1 point, so whenever I spam my Q with my ballista, I will get my silver shot. Together in combination to get more silver shot with the smoke bomb, I can get up to 5 stacks. You just need 3 stacks to get the dodge, but the higher stacks you are, the more warding you get from dodging the attack. Now after learning how to dodge, which you'll be spamming using the ballistas, you want to know the placement of your skills. So BinaQc here explains things quite nicely. Again, I recommend coming over to his videos. So in one of the demonstrations, you can see that he was playing the map as if he's not seeing the monsters. And this is one of the demonstrations. Notice that he was casting the ballista way far ahead of him and kills all the monsters that could potentially come to his way. So this is the biggest deal, right? And then when he fights a boss, there will be some basic generic setup which allows him to deal burst amount of damage. Again, he tried to cast it out of the map, and yes, he does leap in to get some minus armor with the smoke bomb, and then he moved out of the way. He will let his mercenary minion to tank and also let the ballistas to tank. And while doing so, the boss will be hitting those things while you can spam maximum amount of damage. So this is quite important for you to keep yourself away from the boss, out of the screen, and then spamming minions on top of them so they're hitting your minions. Now I mentioned earlier, we'll have a look at how to fight bosses with this build. So coming over to one of our previous videos with Sabi's recordings. So notice that he was placing the decoy away from himself and also at the far end of the boss. And then what he's going to do is, he's going to be casting his Falconer spells to lower the resistance of the boss, and then he will be spamming more ballistas. You can spam ballistas anywhere you want because the range is very far. And this allows him to deal the most damage the moment the boss is spawned. After that, be careful with the ground effects of the boss, and your damage should rank up with the stronger gears as you go through it. So it might seem very simple in this recording, but notice that he was having a lot of damage. If you guys don't have enough damage, you really have to be careful with your groundworks. You want to use smoke bombs to be dodging spells. And yes, the faster you click, the more mana regen you have, the stronger it is, right? And finally guys, be careful with the boss, as you might not want to get too greedy with dealing damage, because you'll still be one-shotted no matter how strong your gears are. Now I'd like to also mention that this build is quite high-end, which means that we deal more damage scaled with dexterity, and also the more mana regeneration we have, the stronger we become. And this is quite a big problem with most of the players with the build initially, because at the start of the build, you're looking at a lot of items without any legendary potentials. And without legendary potential, it could be a little harder to get those items with more mana regen. So here comes the next question and also answer. Why am I finding myself out of mana a lot? Well, BinaQc over here, which I had a look, he had 36 mana regen on his character, which means more spams for the ballistas, and he can cast this one more frequently. If you look at myself, I'm currently sitting at 25 mana regen, and the cost of the ballista at 22. So this will limit how many ballistas I can spam, and notice my mana is not going up as fast. But once you stop casting, your mana will go up pretty fast quite eventually because you have so much mana regen, right? So the amount of mana regen is going to be essential for the build. And this is why having tier 7 mana regen on your rings and also on your amulet can be a big factor. Because our concept of defensive capacities is by killing enemies before they come to us, then having mana regen will make a big difference. So the sources of mana regen are coming from the rings, amulets, belts, and also even the implicit on the gloves can give you more mana regen. So coming over to the builder's guide over here, you can see that Bina over here also is not using the unique amulet. He's using an amulet that is Exalted amulet with increased mana regen and also bonus mana. I don't think the bonus mana is a big deal, but increased mana regen will matter a lot. And this is similar in the case for myself. I'm getting high dexterity mana regen and also additional mana regen that is tier 7. So I'm trying to get as much mana regen as I can because I'm not crafting this amulet yet. I'm keeping this amulet so I get most of my mana regens. And I also get some armor shooting potential and also some even more elemental resistance, which gives me more mana regen coming from this particular chest. Now on the topic of legendary potential and also items, now some of you might be following my previous video, which we were looking at how to gear up using the Merchant Guild. So here we have some recommendations for Merchant Guild players and also Circle of Fortune players. Well, this is going to be focused on how you can deal the most damage with the most time efficient farming method. For me at the moment, getting legendary potential on my weapons is the most essential part. Then I'll be looking for legendary potential on the chest and the helmet because they're easy to farm. And then finally, I know the relic and also the belts are much harder to get legendary potential, and I'll probably farm those ones the last. So you can see in my character that my swords don't have any legendary potential. I did get a 2 LP chest, so I'll be looking for 1 LP or 2 LP helmet, and those 3, getting the sword will be my biggest focus. So what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to farm the Ring of Dragons, which will give me a boosted drop rate for the swords. And once I get legendary potential on the swords, I'll be crafting those tier 5, tier 7 affixes onto those, and then I go for the helmet. Finally, of course, I go for the boots, which I didn't really get a good crafting, and then I go for the relic, and also I go for the belts. So here, yes, I forgot to add the boots over here. You also want to craft on the boots. Now for the Merchant Guild players, you can aim yourself for rank 6 or rank 7 within the guild, which will allow you to be purchasing unique weapons and also exalted items. And this will allow you to be crafting those items onto those legendary potential items and to make yourself even stronger. Because remember guys, this is a very high-end build. The stronger you become, the more stronger offensive and also defensive you become. Now as for the Circle of Fortune players, I'll be making a guide on Circle of Fortune and also Monolith farming and posting that very soon. I have a lot of notes over here if you haven't noticed, I've been writing those. So as for Circle of Fortune, I recommend getting some really good 1 LP or 2 LP sword and then follow through that. Now during this time, I recommend understanding our stats. Our dexterity will scale, and our dexterity is one of the biggest scaling factors for greater area and also more damage. But together with mana regen, if you don't have the mana regen, you can't deal enough damage. So we're looking for tier 6, tier 7 mana regen and also dexterity. Now after that, the lightning resistance is a bonus. Because of the chest we're using, bonus lightning resistance is converted into increased mana regen. But every 3% goes into 1%, so it's not the biggest factor. And similarly, if you're getting all resist, this is another form of weaker lightning resistance. So you should be looking for dexterity mana first, and then some lightning resist as a bonus. And finally, if you do get some all resist, it is okay as well. Now coming over to our last part of the guide, how can you be using this build for AFK arena farming? Well, I have tried it in various modes with various difficulty on arena farming. But the first 3 difficulty, you don't have a problem. You can literally stand here guys over here and spam farming to get your favors. With higher difficulties, you might be facing ground effect, which can potentially kill you. So what I recommend is just run around and spam your ballistas, that is fun. But if you want to cast your smoke bomb or cast your decoys, you'll be extra defensive. As long as you're mobile, you're also dodging ground effects. And this is pretty much an AFK build. You can kind of close your eyes and spam the ballistas, and this will kill everything in sight. Now as you get to round 40 of the arena in some of the mode, you'll be encountering the boss. So be aware of the boss. You do want to set up some ballistas and also use your decoy and also your falconer skills to lower the boss's armor and also keep yourself away from the boss and also avoid the ground effects. You can deal tons of damage as long as you stay alive. This is the biggest part. And after that, spamming a few times will allow you to take down the boss, which enables you to AFK a farm arena. So majority of the time I'm not doing much. I'm moving around, I don't even have to move. I can put on a show and just press my ballistas and this will kill mostly everything. And I just have to come back every 5 rounds to be spam clicking next round, and then I just AFK pretty much. And this is the fun part of the build because it really works in arena, and this is how people are pushing for higher levels using this build. Now during the time of arena, I was actually around 10,000 favors, and after testing arena for like half hour, close to 1 hour, I got also 10,000 favors out of arena. So this can be a great method for you to push for higher leaderboard and also to get some experience and also favors coming through the arena. But do be careful guys, if you die in the arena, you start over again. And because we're quite squishy, if you lose focus or if there's fire on the ground, it can kill you. So hopefully this detailed video gives you guys a better understanding of how to play the explosive Falconer for 1000 corruption plus. And the frequently asked questions will help you guys get started, understand the build, and also equip you guys for better items for the higher end of the gameplay for this build. Now if you guys haven't subscribed, this is a really good time to do so, because I'll be learning with tons of the top meta, last epoch build from different players in terms of solo and also in terms of co-op, to push for higher corruptions, 800, 2000 here, and also different ways of getting top leaderboard with arena with leveling. And in doing so, we'll be learning multiple builds from the best players in the world. So make sure you subscribe and join me on this adventure to learn with Last Epoch. And if you guys do have an amazing build, whether it's a fun build, it's a creative build, or maybe a top meta build, you can share with me on Discord, and I'll look into it, learn the build, and share with everyone on the Last Epoch community.